YouTube, my name is Rachel Mayo. Welcome to my channel and thank you for being here. I'm going to be discussing the effects of Mercury retrograde on relationships. If you break up with your partner or a business partner during Mercury retrograde, is the breakup permanent? I'm going to recommend that you listen to the entire video because I talk about all the other nuances that we're going to experience during this Mercury retrograde, which is honestly one of the more tough ones that we're going to have this year, simply because it's going over two signs and signs that are really, really important in our chart. One of the hopeful transits that's going to bring a window for reconciliation is the transit of Juno into the sign of Libra. It takes Juno a long time to go around the zodiac. Juno is the asteroid of commitment and romance, so it's very important that it's going to be transiting in the sign of Libra, the sign of commitment. This is the natural seventh house of the zodiac, so that's a little window right there. Listen all the way to the end of this video to find out the other times, to find out the best times for a reconciliation. But let's first of all examine what Mercury rules. Mercury rules the natural third house of the zodiac. This is the house that rules over our immediate environment, our siblings, our neighbors, communication, gadgets that we use every day to make life easier, like our phone, our computers. It rules the mind. It rules over our thought process. It also rules over our ability to learn new skills. But most of all, it rules communication. And communication tends to go haywire when Mercury is transiting retrograde. This transit tends to bring a lot of upheaval and confusion in relationships with others, be it romantic relationships or business relationships. All kinds of relationships are bound to be affected by Mercury because we need Mercury on a daily basis. Mercury is the fastest moving planet around the zodiac. And that's the fortunate part. Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year, sometimes 4 times a year for 3 weeks. So certainly we cannot stop our life simply because Mercury is going retrograde. However, when Mercury does go retrograde, we have to be very aware of our communications when we're communicating with others, especially our really important intimate relationships, because the likelihood of disagreements or confusion is enhanced during Mercury retrogrades. In this video, I'm going to make connections with the Mercury retrograde that we're currently experiencing in August in the sign of Virgo and Leo. Mercury retrograde started in the sign of Virgo, where he was dominant. He was powerful because he rules this sign. He was still transiting backwards, so he was not able to see things clearly. Mercury conjuncted Venus at the beginning of the retrograde. Venus also rules over relationships and what we love and value. Some of us may have experience some type of confusion or miscommunications with our partners, with our romantic partners or our business partnerships. Normally, when Mercury and Venus conjunct while Mercury is moving direct, it's a lovely transit that you can use to express how you feel towards your partner. You can use this transit to express your feelings, like telling your lover that you love them. However, with this transit, we have to keep in mind that even though Mercury is dominant in the sign of Virgo, Venus is in 4 in the sign of Virgo. And this is because Venus is exalted in the opposite sign of Pisces, where Saturn is currently transiting. So essentially here, this means that we're dealing with a fallen Venus and a Mercury who's not wanting to commit because he's moving backwards. We also have to keep in mind that there's a rough connection going on here. Venus is opposing Saturn. There's an opposition by sign. Venus is eventually going to catch up and oppose Saturn, who's transiting retrograde in the sign of Pisces, the sign where she is dominant. The opposition really brings, this opposition brings power struggles in relationships. And if your relationship is not healthy, you've been having problems before, this opposition could lead to a breakup. However, we have to look at how things are aspected in your own natal birth chart to determine whether it's going to be a breakup or it's going to be you and a partner meeting in agreement, agreeing to elevate your relationship to a much more serious status, a higher commitment level like marriage or moving in together. So yes, the opposition of Saturn and Venus can solidify a relationship. However, if you're single, I would not encourage you to start a new relationship during a Mercury retrograde, and with a fallen Venus in opposition to Saturn. This relationship will not have a good chance of working out. We all know about all the squares that are going on in August. They're not harmonious transits. I would not favor starting a new relationship during these transits. We have to keep in mind that if we start a new relationship while Mercury, the planet of communication, is transiting retrograde, you could be starting a relationship that is going to have problems in communication, because this is the energy that you have at the inception of the relationship. And in most cases, when you start a relationship during a Mercury retrograde, there is some information about the other person that you don't know, that is hidden. Perhaps this person is still involved with their ex, or they could even be married, or they have like 10 children and you're not ready for that type of relationship. They withheld this information from you. So it's okay to meet somebody during a Mercury retrograde, get to know them during the retrograde period, and initiate the relationship when Mercury is transiting direct. So to answer the question of, is a relationship broken up for good if you broke up during a Mercury retrograde, in most cases the breakup is not permanent. It's simply because the miscommunication or the disagreement, argument could be rectified. When Mercury starts to move forward, everything will become clear, the truth will be out, and perhaps one of you is going to apologize and there will be a reconciliation. Of course, we have to look at how Mercury retrograde is aspecting your own natal birth chart. Does Mercury rule a relationship house in your chart? How is your natal Mercury placed in your birth chart? How is it aspected? All those things need to be examined before we can determine that your lover is going to return. I've also noticed that people who start relationships during a Mercury retrograde tend to have a negative experience, because sometimes Mercury is bringing up karma from a past life. Perhaps you did somebody dirty in a past life and they come back for their revenge in this lifetime during a retrograde. They're bringing old karma back into the relationship. It's not that they're doing it intentionally. You both may not even know why there's such an intense attraction to each other. It could be because one of you owes the other person karma. So be very selective and careful who you start a relationship with, and also who you take back during a Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde does tend to bring back old lovers from the past. Should you restart a relationship with an old lover during a Mercury retrograde? It's not a clear-cut answer. It all depends on what's going on in your chart. I always like to remind my clients that this person could be coming back with old karma. Some people come back for closure, so perhaps you may take them back just to give them that closure and then release them. Don't take them back and restart a relationship. Give them the closure that they need and send them on their way. This Mercury retrograde has a lot of complications with it. And this is because once Mercury retrograde is out of the sign of Virgo, it's going to go back into the sign of Leo, is eventually going to come into a tough square to Uranus, who's transiting the sign of Taurus. We already had this square happen for the first time at the Leo full moon. This may have brought up old arguments, resentments, and probably disrupted your relationships unexpectedly. So Mercury is going to retrograde back over the same spot and trigger this previous aspect. It's going to rehash whatever argument that may have been brought up as a result of this square aspect. Whatever happened unexpectedly is going to be rehashed. This is not a good time for you to start reconciliation talks. The other opportunity for reconciliation could open up at the time of the cazimi, when Mercury is in the heart of the sun. Unfortunately, Mercury will still be retrograde and will be reborn as a morning star. This conjunction is going to highlight some of the missing information, or whatever it is that you were arguing about is going to be looked at in a different light, because now you have more information. But Mercury is saying, no, wait a minute, I'm not done going over old information. So I would suggest that you give Mercury a chance to finish his whole retrograde cycle, and when the retrograde is done around the 28th of August, you can contact your lover and see where things stand, and see if you can begin talks that will lead to a reconciliation. So if you'd like to know for sure if your breakup is permanent, I suggest that you book a reading with me so that we can go over your own natal birth chart and see if the breakup is permanent. And also look for a window for you to initiate communications that could probably lead to a reconciliation. If you like the content of this video, please hit like, share, and subscribe. Also, make sure to leave me a comment in the comment section of this video. Tell us about how and when your breakup happened. I'm sure there are many other people going through the same thing, and I would love to hear and learn from other people's experiences. So if you're going through a hard time emotionally, just keep in mind that there's a lot more complicated transits that are adding to this Mercury retrograde and making it much more challenging, bringing a lot of breakups in agreements, relationship, business partnerships, or any other transactions that you have to do with other people. Hey, Mercury is retrograde, so yeah, I did miss out some of the important things that I wanted to say about the appropriate time or the best times that you can possibly initiate a reconciliation with a lover. If you're enjoying this content, please hit like, share, and subscribe. Also, let us know what may have happened in your relationship. Did you experience a breakup during this Mercury retrograde? Are you hoping to get back with your lover or perhaps your business partner? On the 23rd of August, Mercury retrograde in Leo is going to trine Chiron at 23 degrees of Aries. A trine aspect is a harmonious aspect in astrology. It allows energy to flow harmoniously in the houses. So this is an opportunity for some type of healing communications, for the possibility of having a healing conversation with your ex-partner. Of course, we also have to evaluate how this degree is aspecting the other planets in your own natal birth chart. Alas, Mercury stations direct at 21-25 degrees of Leo. Yay, Mercury is direct. Things could start possibly falling into place. Just keep in mind that Mercury has a retrograde shadow for about 2 weeks or so. So things are still going to be slightly bumpy, but you can hear each other, you can hear yourselves think. It's time to start communications. It gets even better. On the 29th of August, Venus enters the sign of Libra, where she is dominant. Venus rules the sign of Libra. This is very positive because Libra is the sign of relationships. It's the natural 7th house of the zodiac. So people are more willing to cooperate, negotiate, or reconcile. Venus has left the sign of Virgo, where she's in 4 and very critical to herself and others. Venus is now transiting in the sign of Libra. Hooray! Venus is going to eventually conjunct Juno, the asteroid of romance and commitment partnerships. This is really, really wonderful. The other thing why this is excellent is because these two are going to form a very harmonious trine to Pluto. So we're going to have positive transformation in relationships. Pluto will still be at 0 degrees of Aquarius and is going to exactly trine Venus as soon as she enters Libra, her home sign, where she's absolutely dominant, and is eventually going to conjunct Juno, the asteroid of marriage, romance, and commitment. This is absolutely wonderful. This would be the best moment for you to start talks about reconciliation or getting back together, or perhaps even a marriage proposal for some. On the 2nd of September, we have another really important alignment. Juno is going to conjunct Venus and the South Node in Libra. This is a setup for karmic relationships, karmic agreements from a past life. Some people are going to meet somebody that is destined. It all depends on what you have in Libra. Do you have a stellium in Libra? Do you have the vertex point in Libra? These transits are really setting us up towards our fated destiny, karmic relationships. If you'd like to know how this is aspecting your own natal birth chart, get in touch with me, rachel-mayo.com. I have a discounted special reading for $80. Book this reading so that we can find out what's really going on in your chart. Are you going to get back with your lover? Are you going to get married?